Okay, let's try this again, but without the Fed posting, because this is a really difficult topic to get through without, saying the obvious. So, what if, and don't say it in the comments, I like, you can go to Telegram for that. So, what if Dee Snider and Paul Stanley are right? If you're under a certain age, you're like, who? At one time, Kiss was a huge band. Twisted Sister, not so much, but they were a solid rock band. They had some pretty good songs. So, what happened? Well, Kiss they're Istophobic now. These are far right wing Hugo Boss, Luger and Mauser toting, Roman saluting guys. These two Jewish rock stars. You bet your ass, buddy. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I don't know about Paul Stanley with his politics, but Dee Snider's openly a left wing guy. Yeah, but he's not left wing enough. Oh, that's where we are now. We're protecting kids, makes you a far right extremist. You got it in one. If you're not on board 100% of the narrative, you're a far right wing dog whistle. Even the guy who was calling the MAGA and the Trump crowd maggots and refused to let them use the music for the yeah, that's right. They're far right extremists. Nothing you say makes any sense. At some point, you just got to call out these Rolling Stones or whoever these magazines are. It's like, you're just propagandists. You're not the media anymore. Anyway, so Dee Snider and Paul Stanley chime in on sterilizing. I was more of a Twisted Sister fan myself, and then later on, after I read this thing yesterday, I went and I listened to Love Gun on YouTube. Turns out it's a pretty good song with, like, I mean, not the lyrics that are just nonsense, but the music of it and the guitar work of it is really solid. It had a crunchy, alive feel. And I did read the history of Kiss back in the 90s, where they were a live band, not a pre-recorded band. So, like, they were struggling to sell, and then when they started releasing their live albums, they captured the energy of the live stuff. And it turns out there's a lot of bands like that. Anyway, so what are these monsters? What are these far right wing extremist monsters saying? Oh, hey, maybe don't put kids on puberty blockers and cross sex hormones because those are irreversible. Yeah, puberty is actually a limited window. You can't get back lost time from puberty. Once it's a discrete, like a 5 year period. If you take a year away from it, you have the remaining 80%, but you're missing that 20%. You'll never have the full puberty. And Jazz on YouTube explained what happened to that family, and the medical problems they had because they put them on, they gave them puberty blockers and hormones at a young age. And go, aren't these people monsters? Yeah, of course. But if you talk too much about that family, you'll get kicked off of YouTube, because YouTube has to protect the narrative. Because aren't those monsters also? Yeah, of course they're monsters. I mean, like, yeah. Yes, they're evil. I mean, they're like biblically evil people who are doing this stuff to kids. That's why this is the third time making this, because I just kind of devolved into Fed posting, which is just really a challenge. Because all this stuff is irreversible. The doctors in the clinics are sociopaths, and it kind of puts people in this. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. Puts people in this weird, uncomfortable position, because you got the CDC, Mayo Clinics, and a bunch of American companies, and then the equivalent overseas who are talking about this, and they go, "Wow, this is all fine and dandy." Like, no, it's not. And if you say it is, oh, we're professionals. Yeah, but that just means you're lying to us. If you say that this is fine and dandy, that means you're lying, and that has far-reaching consequences to say you're openly lying to us about this one thing, because you start pulling that thread. You go, so what else are they lying to us about? Oh, all these people we thought were experts are liars. Well, yeah, big pharma is $1 billion industry. Oh, yeah, but these are unbiased experts. I said it's $1 billion industry. How do you get someone to say something about climatology or health issues? Well, you drive up in a 7 Series BMW and a briefcase full of cash. You go, hey, scientist guy or popular leader of some movement, I'm going to sign this BMW over to you. $160,000 car. This briefcase full of cash. Opens it. Yep, it's off the books. It's all yours. Do with it as you wish. And here's the direction we want you to go in. It's like, okay. That's like a lot of scientists and doctors, people with higher IQ, they kind of start trending into the sociopathy tendencies. And that's the reality of a lot of these situations. Is there's no even threats to it. It just doesn't have to go that direction. You just roll up with, hey, you want a book deal? You want to be a consultant on CNN? Yeah, those are paid consultancies. You know that, right? It's like all you have to do is, this is the narrative that we're going with, and this is kind of money you're looking at. You're looking at, it's like $700,000. Oh, sign me up. And that's just how easy it is. Because I mean, a lot of these people, like, so you have to look into the sociopathic tendencies of people. It's like they really, other people are not real to them in the same way that people are real to us. Anyway, so people are in this weird, uncomfortable position because you got all these clinics that are saying this stuff is cool. Though I will say that the English Medical Board, their equivalent of the CDC, changed a bunch of their pro-T messaging and started to admit that it would require becoming a lifetime patient and that there are permanent, irreversible side effects. You go, so you're, I mean, that's not, people don't work for free. So these big farm companies and the med industry, so there's money being exchanged in creating a lifetime patient. So the person before this event was not a lifetime patient. They would have had the standard medical care, but now they're a lifetime patient. It's like taking a car that is running. Like I've had cars that go like over 250,000 miles because they're de-stressed engines. So they're decent sized engines, but they're not putting out a lot of power. It's like so the engine doesn't overheat. It's not a lot of compression. It goes for 250,000 miles. And you go, so we're gonna put twin turbos on it, and we're gonna run this thing hot. And the oils, you get what I'm trying to say. It's like, so what about the maintenance for that car? It's like, oh yeah, it's going to require a lot of maintenance, but we're going to take this minivan that puts out 150 horsepower and it's just a family truckster. We're going to give it like 600 horsepower with these twin turbos, but it's going to require a ton of maintenance and expense. So, but I don't need that. Like I just need to go up to Tahoe every weekend and I still get, 18 miles a gallon in a loaded down minivan. You get the idea of what I'm saying. It's like, you just created an industry out of nothing. You just causing trouble. It's like, yeah. No. They have your best interests at heart. They're completely unbiased. But I just said it's $1 billion industry. Money talks. And if they have to swim through these rivers of blood, ooh, that was a bad quote. Oceans of blood, I should have said. They'll absolutely do it. They don't care about the victims. It's like, well, they should have known. They should have. But you lied to them. How are they going to know if you lied to them? That's why I did this video. That's why it's hard. I'm gonna have to get on a computer and start editing this kind of stuff. So it makes you wonder where they were lying before in their pro-T messaging when they said that stuff's irreversible. Because at the time they wrote that, they knew they weren't. So were they openly lying and just kind of quietly changed that website? Well, yeah. Yeah, that's just what it boils down to. Because people know it's not, which puts them in this position of having to admit that these giant medical industries are outright lying. Because they are. And then that the pharmaceutical companies are also lying and because they have a financial interest to the tune of billions of dollars. And, Tiefler, Sackler, and that other PH company. And maybe their governments are lying also. So it's like you put this in people's lap and you go, well, what a fudge am I expected to do with this kind of information? Because you're basically saying there's no political solution to this kind of stuff because it's too much rot. It's too much corruption. It basically means you'd have to completely change the governments of the West, and you'd have to drop a lot of red pill. You have to do many things that you had previously not done because if they're corrupt at this level, then they need to be deconstructed. You're not going to vote your way out of something this corrupt because you didn't vote your way into this. It just was a slippery slope that led you down this path. It leads down a rabbit hole, and there's a quote about fat men don't revolt. Because in modern age you're so distracted with video games and prawn and sports ball, high fructose corn syrup and Uber Eats and all this kind of, you go from one crisis to another to keep you as distracted as possible. And what the Kardashians are doing, it's like, oh, that's all crap. That's all crap designed to distract you from these fomenters of discord. So it leads down a rabbit hole. Anyway, so openly left-wing Twisted Sister singer joins the Kiss guitarist and says, hey, maybe sterilizing kids is not so cool. And it's like the needle scratch on the record where suddenly the wrong thinkers have been found out. So, it seems like a reasonable statement to me. It's like, hey, why don't you wait until you're over 25? And then if you're thinking about removing body parts, you're probably going to just not want to do that ever. Like, oh, I'm 25. I fully developed brain. Yeah, I'd still say you shouldn't do that. You're more likely than not in a few decades, you're really going to regret that. Because it's a one-way trip. It's like you're just doing something that was not designed to be done. So Dee Snider agreed with the tweet and got kicked out of the Pride March for having a mild disagreement. It's a teachable moment. For whom? It's a teachable moment for us to look at these sociopaths and to see like these left-wing rock stars are finally saying, yeah, this is kind of weird what you guys are doing to kids. And it's even weirder that not enough people are speaking out against it. So he gets kicked out of this march for having a mild disagreement on one aspect of this whole globalist propaganda agenda. All it takes is one act of heresy against a satanic dogma, and that's enough to get you excommunicated. So the parasites of the Rolling Stone are framing the issue as something it's not, that people are concerned about children being, you're denying them the ability to reproduce. But the media skips over all that. They totally skip the long-term side effects of these chemicals and treatments. How do you do this to kids, prevent them to, branch out and form new buds, and think that you're not the monsters in this situation? No, this is totally organic and not coming from the Machiavellian Machiavators. So, like, where was this 20 years ago or 200 years ago? Well, sure, they were guys cross-dressing because they enjoyed it. It was part of a kink, whatever. They didn't put kids on drugs and then sterilize them. That's something that monsters do. If you're doing this, you support this, you're a monster. This is Sodom and Gomorrah level type of, like, this is biblically evil. I mean, this is so evil it will have atheists start to look at like what's stirring beneath the waters. That's how evil some of these people are. It's just really difficult to get to. So they're talking about their, you know what? I'm gonna lose my mind if I go through this anymore.